co-driver thinks there's a little more in there.
Yeah. Hard taskmaster there, Tony.
Actually, he was really quite surprised at that time, wasn't he?
Oh, I think he was.
Yeah, he knew 1:11.43 yesterday, and to come down to 1:8.92 today, he was really more surprised than anyone, I think. That's an excellent time. Next up should be Graham Anderson from Lower Huts in the Chevette V8. Popular choice of car this year, the Chevette V8.
It's an unlikely sounding choice, but there's, what have we got, 2 of them here, or 3, is it?
3. A couple with the alloy block 3.5 litre V8s in them, and of course Kim Austin's with the big 5 litre Holden motor. Graham Anderson yesterday qualified in 20th place with 1:13.05. .44.03 to the top.
Came out of the hairpin very quickly, Tony.
I noticed that the entry for 2 or 3 drivers today is a little slower, but they seem to be getting the traction out quicker. It's really the exit to that corner that's important, isn't it?
Well, if you come out of there 5 or 10 kilometres an hour faster, you've got that margin all the way down the straight.
As if you're brave enough to keep it all the way down the hill.
You've got that blind brow which puts people off.
1:11.80 down from 1:13.05. There's a lot of people here today capable of improving. And I think that's just changed our cut-off point as well.
So we've lost...
We've dropped off Hugh Owen from the qualifying order, I'm sure. Yes. He was borderline, wasn't
Grant Goyle has gone as well.
So the time now becomes 1:11.83 that you've got to beat. Paul Dixon now from Oxford in the Ford Mexico. Dixon yesterday surprised quite a few people. He ended up in 27th place with 1:14.22 of the qualifiers. Mike, Escort Mexico is a car that you're a little more familiar with than I am. Perhaps you could explain the background and how it got its name.
Well, the Escort Mexico uses the 1600 pushrod motor that was first used in a Cortina. And it was prepared for the London to Mexico car rally, Tony, which was eventually won by Henry Mikkeler, driving a car with a motor such as this. It was chosen for the event because of the availability of parts throughout the world. So if one of the works cars blew a head gasket in South America, they could get a head gasket from the local Ford dealer.
And it was the forerunner to the BDA type heads when the RS 1600 first came out with 4-valve.
That's right.
Might see an improvement here. 1:11.96 is not fast enough to get in, but it's a vast improvement on 1:14.22 yesterday.
Yes, I think the road must be in very good condition because the improvement in times is far greater than I would have expected it.
Well, 3 seconds, and in a Ford Mexico, that's an enormous amount of time to take off.
Well, when you consider that Tony Teasdale did a similar time yesterday.
In a far more sophisticated
car. More sophisticated car. The increase in speed is phenomenal.
Now, Colin Knapp qualified just 1 place ahead of Paul Dixon yesterday. He did 1:14.11. The Escort RS 1800, Colin Knapp from Nelson. So we've already seen that Paul Dixon could come down from 1:14.22 to 1:11.9. Took 3 seconds off. And Colin Knapp's got a lot more horsepower than he had. Seems as years go by, Mike, that rather than a dying breed, BDA Escorts, there seem to be more of them every year.
Because I don't know where they're getting them from. I think the Formula Pacific single-seaters that they race over here are providing a lot of engine parts.
Too wide.
Now that would ruin his chances completely.
The problem when you get out that wide on that hairpin bend is that in the loose metal out there, there's no traction, so you lose it on the exit to the corner, and thus all of your downhill piece is slower. Colin Knapp needs to better 1:11.83 at the moment, and probably 1:11.1 or 2 if he wanted to be sure. Remember, he only had 1:14.11 yesterday, and 1:11.95 once again. A huge improvement, but not quite enough.
I think the mistake at the top certainly cost him a chance of getting into the fastest 16.
Yeah, well, on that time, if he can produce 1:11.95 and drag it down from 1:14, if he hadn't had the mistake at the top, I think he'd have been in now at 16. Now, Peter Marshall from Ashburton in the Mazda RX-3 Coupe. Peter Marshall yesterday qualified 17th. He had 1:12.51.
Well, he'll know that the pressure's on him today. 17th fastest yesterday. He has to improve one place to get into the fastest 16.
In the 6 years we've been doing this rally sprint, and in the couple that we did in Auckland, Mike, I've never seen somebody go up in one run and take more than 3 seconds off.
No, not unless they'd made a mistake on the first run, Tony.
No, not unless it was a very obvious thing where they'd come adrift or whatever, but in a straight run, I've never seen somebody take more than 3 seconds off, and we've had 2, 3, 4 people here taking that kind of margin off.
I think part of the reason comes from a bit of overnight rain, which has killed the dust, and given a surface which the drivers are much more confident on. The feel of the road is good. You can tell by the way they're aggressively going into the corners that they've got confidence, and this is making a big difference to their times.
On the case of Peter Marshall on the way up, I wonder if it's a little overconfident. Getting a little wide of the tail. Wasn't a bad split time for all that. 1:12.51. He improved his split time by a second, so in theory he should come down in 1:11.5. So look for a time somewhere around 1:11. 1:11.46 is close enough to 1:11.5, but not close enough to get